Curiosities about rats, the almighty animal. Surely on more than one occasion they will be left with their mouths open. These animals are very warriors. Here my last chance to convince you and release this idea entitled the OPEN-BOCAS. The OPEN-BOCAS who holds more time without drinking water? A camel or a rat? To your surprise, a rat. Find this item in the list and vote for it. It has been proven that they can bite even more than 10 different foods, of which only 3 were fed. Rodents have a resistance to hostile means much higher than that of other mammals, including humans. Experiments have been conducted in Eniwetok atoll, Marshall Islands, after nuclear tests, proving that rats could survive by feeding on roots and debris, even diving to collect molluscs and crustaceans fighting for it with the fish. An example of the high capacity of this plague to be vector of diseases, is that it caused the death of 25 million people in Europe during the 14th century and another 11 million people in Asia between 1898 and 1923. Vector definition: carrier or intermediate host of a parasite or virus that transmits the germ of a disease to another host. Vector synonyms: line, segment, radio. They like both wet and warm places. In a certain place there may be more than one species of rats, predominating the one that best adapts to that habitat and that is more aggressive. The dominant species is composed of a family group occupying familiar zones or territories. They are recognized by the sense of smell. The space that a rodent goes through in his daily tasks is known as the radius of action. The rats usually visit the same sites every day in a radius of 20 to 80 meters. They are capable of digging. When we throw garbage on the street, we are creating adequate conditions for them to continue living and reproducing. The WHO has indicated that to avoid health problems the ideal is that there are only 2 rats for every inhabitant in the cities. In New York there are 6 and in the DF there are 4 for each person. A pair of rats lose more than 1 million body hairs per year. It is estimated that in Mexico City, the city with the most Hispanics in the world, there are 45 million rats. Yes, you read well, 45 million, according to data from the Semarnet of 2010. In India, in the city of Dishanok there is a very special temple called Karni Mata, where some 20,000 rats live. In this temple the rats are sacred reincarnations of Karni Mata and his followers the Sadhus, holy men of Hinduism. In Hindu mythology it is said that Karni Mata, a reincarnation of the goddess Durga who lived in the 14th century, asked Yama, god of death, to give life to the son of a troubadour. By refusing this god, Karni Mata reincarnated all the troubadours killed in rats and thus depriving Yama of those human souls. In this temple everything is revolutionized when a white rat appears, although it is normal to find black rats. The priest in charge of the temple feeds them grains and milk, and the pilgrims take food offerings. When the bell rings, the offering is made. Well-fed rats just scamper for the food and the pilgrims consider it a blessing to be able to taste these foods. The Norwegian rat has a highly developed sense of taste that allows it to detect chemical substances in concentrations of parts per million. The neophobic behavior of the rat makes it possible to take 17 hours to check the goodness of a new food in its territory, however appetizing it may seem. Neophobia, fear of the new. They live in places you cannot even imagine, under the floors, between the walls, behind the stove or refrigerators, sewers, garbage cans and so on. Within their cognitive capacities, they are characterized by their astuteness, as Dalator demonstrated in 1880, who was able to observe how the rats took eggs without breaking them. The researcher says that, for this, the animals worked perfectly organized. One held the egg with its legs, keeping it gripped. In this position, obviously, he could not move. Then another individual grabbed him by the tail, dragging him into the burrow in union with the booty. These merds have a great capacity for intimidation, as they can even intimidate other animals much larger than her, such as dogs. King of Rats. The term King of the Rats designates a legendary phenomenon that would happen mostly with rats. The origin of the phenomenon is a crossing of the tails of the various rats of a nest that, according to the legend, would appear when a certain number of rats, or animals with long tails, that coexist in small enclosures can be intertwined and tied irremediably to each other, due to the blood or the excrement or the dry dirt that impregnates in the tails, forming a knot impossible to undo. The animals thus linked can live and grow together. According to the legend, the king of the rats exerts a certain authority over the other rats, getting, for example, to get him food. Most researchers believe that this phenomenon is legendary or has been created by the conscious manipulation by humans, who tie the tails of dead rats and mummify them. On the other hand, the cause could be that the rat pups occupied small spaces of some buildings, ending up joined together. However, the natural behavior of rats, which normally seek their own comfort, contradicts this theory. There are no scientific studies that corroborate a natural cause of the phenomenon, so most researchers believe that it is a legend. Discoveries. The earliest documentary report of the existence of the king of rats comes from the year 1564. In the 18th century the phenomenon stopped commenting. There are very few descriptions of the phenomenon as early as the 20th century, and it is explained that it is partly due to improvements in household hygiene and the movement of rats to other habitats. One of the most recent discoveries was made on April 10, 1986 in France and on January 16, 2005 in Varumaa in the Estonian area. One An example of rat king or rattenkönig of the Museum Mauritianum in Altenburg. People in ancient times, when they discovered a king of rats, usually killed him quickly due in part to the fear and superstition that comes with their sudden appearance. 2 There are different mummified discoveries of a king of rats in the Museum Mauritianum 3 Altenburg in Thuringia, federal state of Germany, in which you can see a set of 32 rats, Rattus rattus, entwined by their lower extremities, becoming the best known example of king of rats, or Rattenkönig in German, was found in the year 1828 in a chimney of a miller. Preparations of king of rats preserved in alcohol can be found in the museums of Hamburg, Hameln, and Stuttgart. However, the number of meetings of these Rattenkönig is small. Depending on the source, the described number of encounters can vary between 35 and 50. Known appearances and exhibition examples: meeting 1748 of Müller Johann Heinrich Jaeger in his mill, 18 living individuals. 17,754 16 individuals in Lindenau in Leipzig. In the year 1822 in Dosted 2 groups of Rattenkönig, one of 14 and the other of 28 individuals. In 1828 in Buchheim in Eisenberg, Thuringia, discovered when a miller's chimney was demolished. The apparition was of a group of 32 already mummified dead. Nowadays they are exhibited in the Mauritianum Museum in Altenburg. 1895, 10 individuals, today can be seen in the 1899 Strasbourg Museum. 7 individuals, today can be seen in the Chaitun Museum. March 23, 1918 in Bogor on the island of Java. 10 individuals of field rats, Rattus brachicaudatus. In February of 1963, in the Netherlands, a peasant named P. van Nijnatten in Rockven, Holland, 7 individuals. April 10, 1986, in Match in France, 9 individuals, now exposed in the Museum of Nantes. January 16, 2005, in Varumaa in Estonia, 16 individuals, 5 living, prepared Mauritianum, Altenburg, 32 mummified individuals, found in the year 1828 Hamburg, Zoological Institute, Zoologisches Institut der Universität Hamburg, in Alcohol, Göttingen, Zoological Museum, Zoologisches Museum der Universität Göttingen, prepared in alcohol with details in X-rays, Stuttgart, in alcohol, Nantes Museum, in the city of Nantes, 9 individuals, found in 1986 Strasbourg Museum, 10 individuals, found in the year 1895 Chaitun Museum, 7 individuals, found in the year 1899. Your senses are very developed, especially your hearing, smell and taste. They cannot distinguish colors, that is, they are colorblind, although some of them, such as yellow, may attract them seen as a light gray. They are perfectly oriented in the dark. They have fleas, bedbugs and lice. A rat defecates 25,000 times a year. In the study conducted by the Belgian researcher, Dirk Deng, has shown that the death rate of rats increases after long exposures to the radiation waves of mobile phones and Wi-Fi networks. In this study, a group of rats was kept for 18 months, at different wave levels, every day for 2 hours, increasing mortality by 70%. A proof that sight is not a vital sense for these animals is given by the fact that blind rats can continue their life almost normally. The mice also sing. They are male mice that emit high-frequency sounds. Of course, they are impossible to perceive by the human ear, and they do so when they detect the presence of female mice, presumably as part of the process of courting. According to research carried out, these vocalizations were not random shrieks but songs. They followed a pattern. They sounded like the song of the birds. After 2 months, they can be reproduced. They are capable of gnawing cement, glass and aluminum, etc. either to build your nest or in your need to gnaw. They withstand temperatures up to -30 degrees Celsius. Indonesian and American scientists have discovered in recent expeditions in Indonesia a new species of giant rat never seen before. This rat has a size 5 times higher than normal and weighs almost 2 kilos. It has no fear of being human, because it was seen by the base camp near the shop of the researchers. The flexibility of their skeleton allows them to enter the houses through narrow holes. They can fall from more than 20 meters high without being injured. They endure thirst better than a camel. Mice have bodily functions that allow them to produce their own water when it is scarce. Rats can jump up to 1 meter vertically. His favorite food is not cheese, are the vegetables and the grains. It is common for people to think that the favorite food of mice is cheese, but that is not true. The mouse is a rodent, and most rodents prefer a diet of vegetables and grains. Although mice and other rodents also eat insects and animal flesh. In fact, a hungry mouse will eat anything, including a good piece of cheese. They can swim up to 72 hours. These diseases can spread through excrement, urine and saliva. Why flee mice cats? For his saliva. Perhaps many of us imagine that mice are afraid of them and flee because of their sharp claws or their known agility, but none of that, they are rather afraid of their saliva. His saliva? Maybe you wonder, that's right. A new study reveals that cats, rats and other predators produce a chemical in the saliva with which they terrorize mice. American researchers discovered that when mice detect this compound, which is also found in the urine of rats, they react with fear. In fact, this compound is called major urinary protein or MUP, in its acronym in English, acts on the cells of a special sensory organ in mice, called the Jacobson organ or vomeronasal. As the scientists explain in the magazine Cell, the MUP provoke a reaction of terror in the mouse. The vomeronasal organ contains neurons that detect chemical signals and is connected to areas of the brain involved with memory, emotions and the release of hormones. It is already known that in many mammals the organ can detect pheromones, the chemical messengers that communicate information between individuals of the same species. These pheromones can have a direct effect on the behavior of animals. But in a new study, scientists discovered that in mice the neurons of the vomeronasal organ are also stimulated by the chemical signals emitted by their predators. In mice, these proteins cause the animal to show signs of fear such as staying frozen or staying crouched next to the ground while carefully sniffing and investigating the surroundings. When a rat dies, the others sniff it to know what it has eaten. They relate the ingested food with the death of their partner and stop eating it. Hence, poisons only work for a generation. In some cases, it has been proven that the female rat is able to keep the semen of the male fertile in its organism until after the gestation, once the litter is lit, self-fertilize again without the need for a new copulation.